Oliver Anthony has hit the dream to write a song so good that it goes viral and everybody wants to hear it. There have been many songs that have done such a thing, some organically, some not. And Oliver Anthony's Richmond, north of Richmond, has organically, well, as far as we know, but organically, reached the masses, sweeping across the country. 16, 17 million views in a week on one channel alone, not to mention all the tens of millions of views on Twitter. This song just will not stop. And the left is seething. Despite the fact that Oliver Anthony is not a hardcore partisan guy, he's a working class guy. He says he's a middle of the road guy, but they're calling him an industry plant. Oh boy. Let's talk about this. There's a lot to break down in the industry. I am not the biggest industry guy. Phil Labonte is probably way more versed in this stuff, but I do have some experience throughout my life. I've been playing music since I was probably 7 years old and recording music in to various degrees. And then, as you know, we have Timcast Music, a bunch of songs we've put out. And there's a lot I want to break down here. But I will tell you this, as we get started, mainly I want to talk about the cultural ramifications of a powerful song like this, what it means, what it could lead to, the reaction from the left, and why they're so angry. But I'll tell you, most music you hear, pay to play. Now, that doesn't mean that, say, Taylor Swift goes to a radio station and says, we're going to give you a bunch of money to put this song on your radio station. But it does mean that, in effect, there is some exchange of value. Now, if you go to a radio station and say outright that you want them to play your song and you're going to pay the money, that's illegal. Actually illegal. I forget what it's called. There's a term for it. The one way you can do it is if you tell them, I want to buy, let's say you have a 3-minute song. You're like, I want to buy 3 minutes of commercial time and I want this song to play as a commercial. They have to disclose that it's commercial. So they'll say something and now, a message from our sponsors and then your song plays or something like that. But I still think it's a hard thing to pull off. Nobody does it. When it comes to being the top of the billboard charts, the Hot 100, here's the secret. Digital streaming playlists are the key these days. So let me tell you, Oliver Anthony, he's got the top of the iTunes charts. That's the real metric, in my opinion. Are your fans seeking you out to give you money because they like what you do? Or are they claiming that you are the Hot 100 song simply because a lot of people have streamed your music? The reality there is that digital streaming playlists will pick up an artist they assume to be popular, Taylor Swift, play that song by default when people press like pop radio, and then they'll say, wow, the song's so popular. Well, if radio stations just choose to play songs and it puts them on the top of the charts, doesn't really mean the song's popular, does it? And sometimes a song can get in the mix, like Richmond, north of Richmond. It goes viral. Everybody wants to hear it. They demand it. And without access to the industry machine, you break through and hit that top spot. If properly tracked, and I think Billboard will have no choice. If properly tracked, I believe Richmond, north of Richmond, will probably be somewhere on the Hot 100, possibly number one. And I'll talk to you about this in a second. But let's talk about is Oliver Anthony an industry plant? The great conspiracy. Yes, you must consider it, right? This guy seemingly comes out of nowhere with this working class anthem. Surely this can't be organic. No, I think it's organic. I think it's organic because it's not the most complicated song in the world. It didn't have the best marketing budget. It was literally people being like, have you heard the song? That's what every musician dreams of. There were no commercials. What is the conspiracy? Are they arguing that record labels got together and then hired a bunch of social media bot companies to spam this guy? Spare me. John Rich hit the nail on the head with the hammer. He said all the major record labels in Nashville are falling over themselves to lure Oliver Anthony. The irony is, if he would have been signed to a label when he wrote this song, none of us would have ever heard it. His song fried their brains. Their greed is overriding their wokeness. This is exactly what I have been hoping for, what I've been talking about. Money talks, BS walks. We see it with Target. First sales decline in 6 years. You see it with Bud Light, $400 million lost. You see it with Target down 27% in their stock. Similar with Anheuser InBev. They've taken a hit. I think they may have recovered a little bit. And in recent times, Target has been recovering a little bit, but they're both down. You see it with Sound of Freedom. Massive success. This is the boycotts and the boycotts combined. It is the we are winning the culture war. And who's we? Working class, anti-establishment, libertarian, some moderate conservative types, not neocons. Not everybody in this movement is the same thing. Not everybody opposing the machine and the trafficking and the corruption believe in the same values or come from the same place. I don't think it's fair to call me a working class. I certainly had a working class upbringing, but now I'm a media elite. So I think it's mostly libertarian-leaning anti-establishment for the most part. This is victory. We believe in this country. We are sick of the corruption. We are sick of the swamp monsters, and we want change. Oliver Anthony isn't the most political person. He calls himself, middle of the road kind of guy. Hey, it resonates with how I feel in a lot of ways, though I think we probably disagree on some things. Apparently, he opens a show, his first live performance after the song goes viral, with reading from the Bible. I got tons of respect for that. Not my cup of tea. I'm not an overtly Christian person. I do believe in God, but, more power to him. I respect it tremendously. Let's talk about the conspiracy, though. I love this. Variety writes, is viral sensation Oliver Anthony too good to be true, too right to be true, or an authentic working class hero, which is something to be? Since the Virginia native's Richmond, north of Richmond song began taking off out of nowhere less than a week ago, the Appalachian country folk singer has been acclaimed by freshly minted fans as a phenomenon of the people and accused by detractors of harboring ugly right-wing attitudes or suspected of being an industry plant. I want to point out one of their criticisms first. They say it's a phenomenon not unlike the rise of Jason Aldean's similarly right-rousing "Try That in a Small Town," but with a literally friendlier face. His critics maintain he is punching down as well as up with the song lyrics about the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to be paying for your bag of fudge rounds, as well as the supposed fat cats in Washington, D.C. that are ostensibly the main target of the tune. One of the big criticisms I've seen is that he's just insulting people suffering on welfare. No, he's right. I like welfare. I do. I've gotten unemployment when I lost my job before. Saved me. Helped me keep my apartment, not go broke. And then I found another job and got off it. It was fantastic. So you got somebody who is morbidly obese, buying cookies and candies and not working, and I got to pay for it. He's got to pay for it. Yeah, people don't take kindly to that. You got someone who gets laid off from the factory and they go on welfare and we pay for that. That I'm proud of. I want to say to that working class guy when his factory shut down, don't worry, man. I got a couch for you to sleep on. You're not going to be homeless. We're going to take care of you, and we're going to figure this out so you can get back on your feet. The left complains about the right saying, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps or whatever. There's a saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man a fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. My attitude is, I'm not going to give you the fish. I'm going to teach you to fish, but I'm going to help you get that fishing pole because you still need the equipment to do it, right? You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps if you ain't got no boots. So we got to kick someone off from somewhere. That's me, middle of the road, right? Let's read more. They say, he talks about in a speech that he's nonpartisan. He says, I sit pretty dead center down the aisle on politics, always have. But the funny thing is, and he's anti-war. That's basically what he's saying. Conservatives wanting war. I didn't understand that. When he talks about this line, let me see if here we go. They're accusing him of harboring QAnon views. Here's an interesting take on these lyrics. You're going to have to hear it from the man's mouth, but let's talk about the bias in the media. They say, when he does stick with social issues, he doesn't seem like a political scientist. Exactly. The only three issues he addresses in his plaints against politicians are high taxes, welfare queens, and child trafficking. His focus on the latter, which is the sole topic he addressed in his YouTube monologue, has led to the suspicion that he may harbor or represent QAnon views, since that is a key bugaboo of that movement. Oh, this is laughable. Although he has been limited in how conspiratorial he has publicly gotten. Quote, I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. He sings a slightly confusing couplet that seems to indicate belief in a government cover-up having to do with Jeffrey Epstein. You know why this is stupid? Because it's an interpretable lyric. Let's phrase this line in a couple different ways. I think it's fair to say what he's basically saying is they care more about doing awful things with Epstein than about the actual people of this country. That's how it seems to me. But you could easily make a more liberal argument, a more narrative-driven argument, that there are conservative politicians that care more about the Epstein narrative and culture wars than about the actual plight of the working class. Let me ask you this. How many Republican politicians who are prominent on Twitter have been posting about the plight of the miners in Appalachia who are losing their jobs. How many tweets do they have about that versus how many tweets they have about Epstein and the Bidens and things like that? You could easily say what he's really saying is the politicians care more about the conspiracy theories than they do about the actual working class who are experiencing real tough issues. That being said, I think the dude probably actually understands that Epstein was a real guy who was convicted, and there are a lot of dirty politicians who are exploiting this. My point is simply, it's always the antithesis. It is always the enemy. To the left, unless you explicitly come out and say you worship and praise their deities, their DEI, they will call you right wing. They say non-fans may have to admit in the brief glimpses of him in public, he has a less belligerent, more conciliatory seeming persona than that of, say, the perpetually glowering Aldine. They go on to mention that he opened with Psalm 37. This is John Rich, said the man with the biggest song in the world, Oliver Anthony, doesn't start his show with a song, but rather Psalm 37. The passage details the destruction of the wicked and God's protection for the righteous. They say, yet there is a sense of righteousness in his undertones that may extend beyond his judgment of obese women. At his public gig, he opened the show by reading a lengthy biblical passage from Psalm 37. Here's what I think is funny. Right now, there's a group that's called Midwestern Marks, and they're going to be doing an interview with Oliver Anthony. I just saw the tweet. I don't know too much about it. And now there's a conspiracy theory that Oliver Anthony is actually leftist. I don't think so. The dude's probably centrist, middle of the road. And so he probably has no problem talking to leftists who are actually arguing for the working class, albeit that Marxists, I think, are, for the most part, just really, really ignorant and don't understand anything about what's going on. But I don't think all of them are evil. I think there's a lot of ignorance there, maybe a banality of evil. They say it seems as if Oliver Anthony hadn't come along, someone would had to have invented him. And some progressives suspect he is an invention of behind-the-scenes forces. I think John Rich hit the nail on the head with the hammer. No, if you wrote an anti-woke song like this with a reference to Epstein, they'd can that and be like, no way, sing about beer, your dog, and your truck. Your girlfriend left you, but you still got your dog and your truck. Write that song. They're not going to want this. That's one of the reasons the song takes off, because people aren't being served. People have expectations, they have desires, they have wants, they have things that resonate with them. And the corporate narrative and the media machine and the woke machine doesn't produce this. I don't want Bud Light piss water. I want delicious craft microbrew. That's what we want, something that actually matters to us. I don't drink. I'm making an analogy. You get the point. They're going to say, there's little evidence so far that he is not who he says he is, a factory worker turned farmer with not obscenely expensive resonator guitar without a ton of industry connections waiting in the wings. Web sleuths may or may not make headway in proving that astroturfing accounts for his success, but it's not hard to grasp the niche he fills. Let me tell you how I feel. Maybe it turns out this guy's an industry plant. They knew he was talented. He could sing and he had a good song and they said, this is going to make money. This traditional beer in the car stuff in the truck doesn't work. You got to sing about this. Here's what I see. We are sick of Disney. We are sick of Netflix and Amazon, the woke garbage, these nonsensical, insane narratives they put in movies, the attacks on our core values. And so here comes a song from a guy who's just some factory worker turned farmer, and we would rather him be famous for his words than any of these other plastic garbage Instagram influencers. Dude, I will take an Oliver Anthony any day. I'm not a country music guy. I like folk, though. I am a folk kind of guy. So he's overlapping a little bit in a space that I actually enjoy. I like the song. You know, like rap a little bit. There's certain songs like world music, not a big fan. You know, I can respect the artist and the message, but you know, I get a little bit out of this. I like folk music. I like old-timey acoustic stuff. I take this guy. This is the narrative that we want. Working class dude sings a song, gets that snowball rolling down the hill, breaks through the veil, and bang, here he is, working class guy with the biggest song. This is the kind of guy who deserves to be on the top of that stage, speaking his mind to people about how he worked hard, how he made it, how he used his talent, and he did something good. You know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of these AI-generated influencers. I'm sick of OnlyFans. I'm sick of these NPC women making $4,000 an hour because they go on and make stupid noises and then do disgusting things on the internet for money. Like, I'm not some hardcore conservative guy, But I believe in meritocracy. I believe that there are corrupt forces in this world, degenerate forces in this world. I believe that we are becoming Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm fairly liberal in so many ways. I'm not a staunch conservative. I'm in favor of gay marriage. I got no issue with with two gay parents, two women, two men, whatever. Not a conservative like that. I can certainly understand conservative arguments in that regard. I'm more of a live and let live person. But when they're coming to your kids with nasty books and they're putting the books in schools and they're lying about it, I get sick of it. When I go on Instagram and what do I see is a bunch of AI generated fake women engaging in weird sexual behaviors. OnlyFans, for instance, I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I'll say it again. I'm not a staunch conservative, but the kind of America that I want is the kids getting on their little bikes, riding around the neighborhood till the sunlight, to the street lamps come on, and they come home and they hang out. They talk about what they learned in school. They don't talk about weird identity issues. They don't go on social media and get manipulated by algorithms. They don't have plastic prefab musicians who can't sing and use auto-tune to write garbage generic music about how they're doing lewd and lascivious behavior. WAP. Well, think about this. You want to know why something like Oliver Anthony resonates with so many people, even people who don't necessarily like country music? Because they put WAP in our faces. Wet ass pussy. Awesome. Great. Make the music. Fine. If you like it, you like it. But man, this is the absolute inversion of that. You see how many people are saying this is gross, it's nasty, and I'm sick of it? Hey, a lot of people really like it, I guess. But that's the culture war, isn't it? You take a look at who supports this mainstream pop garbage. Some of it's good. You know, I don't hate all of it. There's a lot of pop music I do like. But there's so much nasty trash. Hip hop and rap talking about being rich and beating people and being hard and getting into shit. That's all garbage. Man, it's crazy to me. I think about, you've got a lot of Public Enemy stuff expresses politics that I don't like. There's that line in Bring the Noise where Chucky D says, Farrakhan's a prophet I think you ought to listen to. And I'm just like, yeah, no, thank you, dude. No, thank you. But I can respect a message about standing up for yourself in a lot of that Public Enemy music about how they work hard, about how they're disrespected. I love that line. You call them demos, but we ride limos too. Basically saying that, back in the day, they disrespected hip hop. They said, you don't have the money. You couldn't afford to do what we do. Your production value is trash, but people liked it and they work hard. And so this message comes out. Then what happens? 10, 20 years later, you get hip hop about bling, bling. I'm rich, doing lewd and lascivious behaviors, drinking shots, garbage, just degenerate. And I'm just like, man, I love that anti-establishment element of old hip hop and the silly nature of a lot of it. And then you get this weird garbage. Now you have pop music where it's all just like, look, I like a lot of Taylor Swift stuff. I don't put it on the radio. It's not what I listen to. My favorite band is probably Metric. I like Saint Motel. Saint Motel, a lot of really good songs. They're pretty good. But let's see, Metric is probably, I like Fits in the Tantrums. You can see what kind of music I like. I used to be a big fan of Death Cab. Grew up on a lot of punk stuff. And but if a Taylor Swift song comes on, it's poppy, it's fun, I'll take it. But so much of that music is this vapid, I broke up with my boyfriend again. She's accused of dude, just, come on. How about this? How about parents go to their kids? They're playing this song about working hard, about how you deserve to get paid for the work, that you do. Not these rich corporate multinational business guys. Not these corrupt politicians. That's what I like. This is the kind of song that is good for culture. So let me tell you this. They have to say he's a plant. They have to try and knock him. They even mentioned Sound of Freedom here. They have to pretend that he can't be natural because he can't be real. He can't be organic because you can't allow this message to persist. You need to be degenerate. But you know what I think? We see this message coming from the left. And what is it? They're sterilizing their kids. They're aborting their kids. They're doing drugs. They're living reckless lifestyles that result in their own death and destruction. Hey, man, I'm libertarian to a certain degree, so I let you do your thing. You want to sterilize? I said the phobia in transphobia is the fear that children will be sterilized. That's the fear that most people have when they talk about these issues, the sterilization of kids. Hey, look, There's a lot of conservatives that don't agree with any of these procedures. But for the post-liberal, disaffected liberal types, it's like, if you're an adult, do your thing, but keep the kids out of it. In the end, I see two worlds. You got kids who are being raised on sterilizing themselves and wet-ass pussy. And then you've got people who are being raised on, you're going to have to roll up your sleeves, work hard, protect your family. And Oliver Anthony. I like it. I think Try That in a Small Town is, I roll my eyes a little bit at it. I can respect it. I get it. It's like, it's a message of standing up for your community. And I tremendously respect that. But, look, man, we've seen a lot go on in small towns that, they got away with it. But again, I respect the message. Stand up for your community. And it's more remarkable because I'm not a country guy. So it's really hard for me to find music that resonates and matters. I would say with Oliver Anthony's Richmond North of Richmond. So I grew up on like acoustic folk and punk and these acoustic punk singer-songwriter types, like people who are just rocking and wailing on acoustic guitars because it's all they could afford and all they had. So this definitely strikes close to home with the kind of stuff that I used to listen to. And a lot of the stuff that I write, a lot of the songs I write are just pure acoustic. But this is what we need. And this is why they can't have it. But I don't think they can fight against it. This guy is not a MAGA guy or anything like that. He just wrote a good song where he's like, yo, man, my dollar ain't worth nothing. They're taxing it. They're giving money to people who are just eating fudge rounds. And I'm just like, yeah, it's so meritocratic. And of course, they have to come out and say it's QAnon, it's a right-wing grift and all that stuff because it opposes their degenerate machine. But let it, fine, whatever. I hope everybody hears this song. I hope it resonates with everybody. I hope it wakes some of these people up. I hope there are kids who hear it and they grow up with better values. But in the long run, I tell you this. Here's what really matters. This song's succeeding. Sound of Freedom succeeding. Target failing. Bud Light failing. So be it. Now I'll wrap up with some talk about the music we have. We have a new song coming out. Currently, the song is done. The music video is in production. It was an ambitious idea that's like a 2-month-long shooting process where we had Ian. He was already pretty thin, but he stops eating for a few days and drinking, and he drops a bunch of weight, films Act 3. He then eats and works out and exercises and sort of replenishes, films Act 2. Now he's working out more intensely, drinking more protein shakes, and, basically getting in shape. And that will be Act 1 because the music video is about breaking down and slowly, so we film it in reverse. It's an arduous project. But the songs that we produce, I don't know how to describe it. You can call it whatever you want. The point is, we have a couple songs that are overtly political, like Will of the People and Genocide. And then we have 2 songs that are not, Only Ever Wanted and Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes is mostly just about, no self-harm is the general idea. And Only Ever Wanted is just like a generic emo rock kind of song or whatever. But the purpose of the music is, I'm going to do what I can do. And music is something I've done my whole life. And if I can do it, I'll try. We don't have a song anywhere near as big as this guy. This guy's fantastic. But we'll do what we can. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. But I'm going to try. I'm not going to stop because we have to build culture. We have to have a messaging that is positive. We have to have programs that you can share. We have to have cultural content that can be shared with young people to inspire them when they get older. We have to create these cultural moments. And this nailed it. We're lucky to have him. So, of course, they'll try and dismiss it. But whatever, man, I'll tell you this. Right now, all that matters is the message is there. The success is there. Sound of Freedom is there. As I mentioned, Target Bud Light failing. We are winning. Now, here's what we need to see from the post-liberals. Hey, look, man, the country stars and the conservatives have been hitting it out of the park with songs like this. With, what do we got? We had Progress by John Rich. We have Try That in a Small Town. Where are the post-liberals to be creative and bring modern rock, pop, dance, etc. with these messages that push our ideals? We need more of it. What's working right now against the establishment is that there are Democrat defectors, people that used to be liberal, people who are still liberal, but they're anti-woke, people who probably fall into our camp. We need to start producing that culture. We've got people like Eric July with Rip Reverse. That's what we need. We can't just have the only songs that are making it being country or conservative messages. Or not conservative messages. That I'm fine with, actually. It's got to be a style that will reach the more general audience. Don't get me wrong. Country music is some of the biggest music in the world. But we got to enter their space. And that's kind of the thing. Well, that's what I'm hoping we can do with the music we're making. It's not country, but we're trying to just produce culture. So we've got skateboarding too. We need to break out and take over the mainstream. But I'll stop ranting. I'll leave it there, man. Props to Oliver Anthony, dude. Amazing song. Excellent work. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.